Welcome back to part 3 of lesson 1. This is our final part. There are 5 different types of phrases that we will be dealing with, and this PowerPoint will introduce you to those. A reminder that you should probably be taking notes as you read these PowerPoints. A good place to do that would be right on your study guide, because ultimately you want to have everything in one place that you can study from it, and I think just taking the notes right on there from each slide I think would be really helpful. All right, first up, first type of phrase. This is the one we've already been introduced to twice now. Prepositional phrases. They start with a preposition, they end with a noun or pronoun. The noun or pronoun that ends it is called the object of the preposition. The only tricky thing about prepositional phrases is there might be a modifier that comes after that comes in between the preposition and the object of it. So for example, on this slide you see at the post office. Office is actually the object of the preposition. The post is the modifier. So you don't want to get confused by that. Make sure that you understand that that whole thing is the prepositional phrase, even though we've got some modifiers in there. They're all right to be there. Second type of phrase is an appositive phrase. Now, there is such a thing as just an appositive. And what an appositive is a noun or pronoun that sits next to another noun or pronoun. It identifies it or explains it. So, for example, your friend Ramala called after you left. Ramala would be the appositive. It's just a noun. It just sits there. It doesn't have anything else. You can also have an appositive phrase, such as the second example. So that includes the noun, the appositive, and its modifiers. So Jesse Sheng, the vice president of the bank, what you see there in brackets, that's your appositive phrase. Sent me a card. With appositives, some of them that you see will be set off by commas, as you see in the second example. Some of them that you see will not be set off by commas, as you see in the first example. The commas have nothing to do with whether or not they're appositives or appositive phrases. The commas have to do with whether or not it's considered a vital piece of information. So, your friend called after you left. That doesn't give me full information because the point is that Ramla called. So, because it's required, it needs to be there. I don't have commas around it. In the other hand, in the second example, Jesse Sheng sent me a card. That gives us all the information we really need to make sense of the sentence. The vice president of the bank, that's just clarifying. It's explaining who Jesse Sheng is. Since it's not vital to our understanding of the sentence, we put it in not quotation marks, we put it in between commas. Third type of phrase, this is probably the most complicated of all of the 5 phrases. It involves something called a participle. Participial phrases involve a participle. And what a participle is it's a verb form. It's used as an adjective. So in the last PowerPoint, we had nouns acting as adjectives. Now we have verbs that can act as adjectives. They're called participles. There's 2 types, present participle and past participle. Usually, your past participles are going to end with an ed or a d. They might not if they're one of those irregular verbs that ends with a t or some different sort of form. But they're going to be a past tense form of a verb functioning as an adjective. Present participles, always going to end in ing. They're acting as adjectives. So, in this example that we see in front of us, these are just participles themselves. The pacing lion made me nervous. Normally we think of pacing as a verb. In this sentence, it's a present participle. It's got the ing. It's functioning as an adjective. It is modifying lion. Which lion? The pacing lion. The hunted animal camouflaged itself. Hunted, normally we think, okay, well, he hunted deer. That's a verb. Not in this instance. Hunted is a past participle modifying the noun animal. Which animal camouflaged itself? The hunted animal camouflaged itself. Those are just participles. When we get to participial phrases, it includes a participle, and any modifiers or complements that it might have, still functioning as an adjective. So what you see in front of you, what you see in brackets, is a participial phrase. Removing his coat, Jack rushed to the river. We've got our present participle removing, and we've got our modifiers explaining what he removed. Those are his complements. And that entire phrase is serving to modify Jack. It's an adjective modifying the noun Jack. It's telling us more about what he did as he rushed to the river. Hesitating for a moment, he quickly grasped the situation. Hesitating for a moment is an adjective that modifies he. It tells us what he was doing. High school graduates, this has got a whole bunch of them, high school graduates replying to a college questionnaire about their courses often mention freshman English as the course giving them the most trouble. In this example, the participial phrase replying to a college questionnaire about their courses, that's really long. That whole thing is modifying graduates. Which graduates? The graduates who are replying to a college questionnaire about their courses. The second one in this sentence, the course that is giving them the most trouble. Giving them the most trouble is a participial phrase acting as an adjective. It's modifying the word course. Okay? Fourth type of phrase is a gerund phrase. A gerund phrase is another verb form. It's a verb that is functioning as a noun in a sentence. It's going to end in ing all the time. A gerund phrase, very similar. It consists of a gerund and any of its related words, any of its modifiers. So for example, studying always makes Trevor hungry. Studying, in this case, is a noun. It's the subject of the sentence. It makes Trevor hungry. Studying makes Trevor hungry. My favorite pastime is sailing. Sailing is your gerund. It says what the pastime is. In this case, it's functioning as a predicate nominative. It's a noun. Ava made reading a top priority. In this case, reading is functioning as a noun, saying what she made a top priority. It's functioning as a direct object. Finally, waiting on tables as a gerund is a good way to earn money in the summer. This is functioning as the subject in the sentence. And what you see in that last sentence is actually not just a gerund, but a gerund phrase. It's the gerund with its extra information, all of its related words. So waiting on tables, we need that prepositional phrase in order to make sense, because waiting is a good way to earn money doesn't make any sense. Now, right now, you might be wondering, well, wait a minute. Participles. I know that present participles end in ing, and that's my clue as to how I know they're a participle. Well, if gerunds also end in ing and they're both verbs, how do I know whether I've got a gerund and a gerund phrase or a participle and a participial phrase? There's a trick for this. Try replacing the word or phrase that you think is either a gerund or a participle. Try replacing it with it or this. If it works, you've got a gerund. So if we go back to the previous slide, we could replace everything in brackets with the word it or this, and the sentence makes sense. It doesn't give us a whole lot of information, but it makes grammatical sense. So it always makes Trevor hungry. All right. My favorite pastime is this. That works. We've got a gerund. Anna made it a top priority. It is a good way to earn money in the summer. If you can replace it with a pronoun, you know it's functioning as a noun and therefore it's a gerund. If we take it back one more slide and look at these participial phrases, or even these participles. The it lion made me nervous. That makes no sense. The this hunted animal camouflaged itself. That doesn't make any sense either. In the participial phrases, it, Jack rushed to the river. This, he quickly grasped the situation. High school graduates, this often mention English as the course it. None of that makes any sense because in a participial phrase or in a participle, it's functioning as an adjective. You can't replace an adjective with a pronoun. So the pronoun test is a way to tell if the ing word you've got in front of you is a gerund or if it's a participle. One more final type of phrase coming up, and that is the infinitive phrases. Infinitives and infinitive phrases are very easy to spot because they are a verb form that is used with the word to. So for example, to watch, to buy, to eat. Infinitive phrases have the infinitive and, you guessed it, complements, modifiers, extra information. So I like to go biking on a Sunday afternoon. To eat pickles is a completely disgusting experience. You've got your to and your verb and modifiers. Thing to be careful of, however, is that to can also start a prepositional phrase. So just because you see the word to doesn't mean that you have an infinitive. If the to is followed by a noun, it's a prepositional phrase. If it's followed by a verb, you've got an infinitive. And we have, quite thankfully, reached the end of Lesson 1, all 3 parts. You may now go ahead and start working in class on your parts of speech and phrase exercises.